In this week's Wikistrat CoreGap report, the lead item, the Terra Incognita essay, we thought it'd be interesting to compare and contrast what we would have proposed as sort of the co-Time Magazine People of the Year. Not just the person they chose, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who has an intense, one could call it burning desire to remake industry after industry in what he calls the social way, but also WikiLeaks founder and CEO and current legal defendant Julian Assange. We think it's interesting that these two guys are kind of transparency mongers of the highest order, and just like Zuckerberg hopes to remake industries, it's fairly clear that Assange hopes to remake governments in his version of the social way, which could be legitimately described as sort of an extreme libertarian worldview. Zuckerberg and Assange really approach the question of transparency from diametrically opposed angles. If you think about it, Zuckerberg's basically conning subscribers into passing over, at no compensation, incredibly valuable information about themselves. And you can judge the value of that amassed information by the fact that Facebook's now valued at $50 billion. Assange in WikiLeaks, he presents himself as sort of a Robin Hood, stealing from the data rich and giving to the knowledge poor. Israel's recent discovery of all that natural gas off its coast, there are some truly interesting possibilities that we've considered at Wikistrat. Among them being the possibility of actually sharing the wealth, not just with Cyprus, where they had a bit of a sovereignty dispute, but possibly even with Lebanon, where there is potentially another sovereignty dispute. We'd also note that the Gaza Strip borders one of the smaller finds, and it's not inconceivable that this kind of wealth could be shared in the direction of Egypt as well. So interesting possibilities there in terms of what Israel could do. There's always the temptation to kind of use up this newfound wealth as quickly as possible, the so-called Dutch disease. That's sort of the benign version of the resource curse. We assume as a functioning yet fractious democracy, Israel can handle this new possibility, but it'll be interesting to watch to see if they make some new inroads in terms of peaceful developments with neighbors on the basis of this new asset pool. There's basically three big possibilities. You kind of muddle through, and inevitably haircuts are coming, meaning debt write-downs, which may get so bad for certain countries that you're looking at sovereign defaults. But that's a way of basically kind of keeping the contagion from spreading too much. It's our opinion in general that that path is sort of foreclosed by the creation of the permanent rescue mechanism, which has signaled the desire on the part of the core Eurozone nations, to include France and Germany, to take some responsibility in maintaining the Eurozone. If you're going to maintain the Eurozone, either you plow ahead and make it more of a fiscal union, not just a monetary one, or you accept the fact that there's going to be potentially revolving membership, meaning you may get sent to the penalty box for some period of time when you're suffering financial decline or difficulty, and then allowed back into the Eurozone once you've stabilized your economy. But if you get on that path, you make it kind of a revolving door situation, and really membership becomes much less important. It's sort of a play when you want kind of situation. If you do go all the way on the fiscal union, we'd like to note that that's how constitutional crises are often resolved. If you look back at the creation of the United States in the late 1780s, it was a debt crisis among the member states that really drove the impetus for the stronger union. And that may be the real opportunity here, depending on how Germany wants to shape the union further, or whether or not Germany feels like its historic mea culpa for past sins is complete by its previous efforts, or its efforts up to now, and really feels like it can cut a better deal with the global economy on its own. I think it's important to note that both the United States and the Chinese have voiced a lot of support for the Eurozone, and that gives the possibility for a muddling through path more time to work itself out. One way this thing can move forward, a suggestion that was voiced in a lot of op-eds several weeks ago, is having very little plausibility, but has been expressed much more frequently in recent weeks and days, and given a lot more plausibility, is the creation of European-wide bonds, which would suggest the development of or the pursuit of a pathway towards a deeper and more profound fiscal union. I think you're looking at ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, really feeling that there's a strong precedent to be avoided here. We've seen in previous cases, Zimbabwe with Mugabe and the 2007 disputed elections in Kenya, which led to a lot of violence, that power sharing agreements where basically the disputed winner and the disputed loser agree to share government don't usually work so well. And it creates kind of a muddling through pathway that satisfies nothing and really sets the system up for further destabilizing events. So I think ECOWAS is eager to step in and force Gbagbo's departure without violence. There's a question as to whether they have the stomach to put together the forces to go in and actually do something militarily, and accept that they might have to stay there for some period of time and get involved in, God forbid, nation building. It's an interesting challenge for AFRICOM, which was set up to deal with exactly these sorts of possibilities. I could foresee AFRICOM advising ECOWAS troops, perhaps some UN quotient of troops. There's already UN peacekeepers there. Perhaps even some NATO troops going in to make this happen. I think the British Marines in 2000 in Sierra Leone proved that you could do this in a fairly discreet fashion with a lot of effectiveness. And it would send an interesting signal right now on the eve of the secessionist vote in southern Sudan, saying in effect, violence will be addressed by the international community in as strong a fashion as possible.